Parashutashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnuparashutarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnuparashutarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnuparashutarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupara Shatarashatashmat Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Shila Gokshara Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupano Goriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Patadashagunath Shar Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachay Shlahairas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Prashant Kushi Akadashi Titi Ki Jai. Akadashi Titi Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Bhakti Vigna Vinasankari Shri Nishinga Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namne gauratishe namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedustam Sarvabhuta Hridayamunimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Hyapadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kshiptashtakamaditaram Kamadhe Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hey, how come it says I'm offline everywhere? That's so strange. Ah, now it's online. All right. Okay, it's just a weird thing. This program doesn't tell me the truth all the time. Radhe Radhe. Rase Shri Mataji. Dandavat Pranams. Ganga Didi Dandavat Pranams. Oh, Ganga Didi's back here on time. Cool. Kishore. Hari Bol. Prajumna Prabhu. Mantra Murthy Mataji. Dandavat Pranams, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry to hear you weren't feeling well, Prajumna Prabhu, yesterday. I'm going to begin now. It's interesting. Everybody's just watching from YouTube. Usually there's a bunch of people watching from Facebook. Wonder if it's working on Facebook. Anyhow, I'm gonna just start and then. So what did we read yesterday? Let's see. Let's go to yesterday. Alright, so Hiranyakashipu's plan to become immortal. Third chapter that we finished yesterday. So Hiranyakashipu, he desired to be unconquerable, free from old age, deathless, and without any rival. So he performed austerities at Mandara Mountain, standing on his toes, keeping his arms upward and looking toward the sky. So by due to his austerities, fire emanated from his head. It spread everywhere and heated up all the planets, and the globe began to tremble. Then the demigods, they went to Lord Brahma to appeal to him. They said, please stop these disturbances of Hiranyakashipu. He plans to occupy the post of Brahma and reverse the established dharma in the world. Please take suitable action. Then Lord Brahma then goes to Hiranyakashipu, appreciates his determination, and promises to offer him boons. And then Brahma, from his water pot, he drops it on his head and enlivens the emaciated body of Hiranyakashipu, which was just skeletons before. Now, I'm going to read from that point on, 26 to 38. Okay, so yesterday we read Hiranyakashipu's glorification of Lord Brahma. And there's a note here. Although Hiranyakashipu praises Brahma in this section as if he were the Supreme Lord, it is Lord Krishna who is the original creator and master of this cosmic manifestation. Brahma is only the secondary creator. Lord Krishna empowers Brahma as an engineer to create this phenomenal world. Thus, the following glory should actually be attributed to Lord Krishna. So Hiranyakashipu says, obeisances unto the great, supreme, and self-effulgent Lord Brahma, who is the shelter of the three modes. When the universe is covered by darkness by the influence of time at the end of his day, He manifests it again by his own effulgence, maintains it, and destroys it by the modes. Just checking really quick to see if it's working on Facebook. Anyways, okay. Then Hiranyakashipu praises Lord Brahma as the original personality within this universe, the seed of the cosmos, the form of knowledge and realization, one who applies mind and realized intelligence in creating this cosmos, the controller of all moving and non-moving living entities by the chief pran, the master of all living entities, the maintainer of the mind and senses, the Lord of all the material elements and their qualities and all desires, the progenitor of 7 kinds of sacrifices headed by Agni Shtoma, by the 3 Vedas and 4 kinds of priests, the supreme soul of all beings, beginningless, endless, and omniscient, eternally awake, seeing everything that happens, eternal time that reduces the lifespan of all living entities, changeless, the witness, unborn, great, all-pervading, and the cause of life for all, not separate from anything, be it lower, better or lower, stationary or moving. Lord Brahma has body formed by knowledge of the scriptures. He is Hiranyagarbha, containing the universe in his belly. He is the greatest. He is the greatest, and he is transcendental to the world of the 3 modes. He is a universal form in this world, although situated in his own abode. He is Brahman, the Supersoul, and the oldest Lord. He pervades the universe with an unlimited and unmanifested form. He is endowed with material and spiritual energies. Anticipating Brahma's inability to bestow immortality, as Brahma himself is not immortal, Hiranyakashipu cleverly asks a benediction to avoid death. Okay, it looks like it's working on Facebook. Cool. Let me not meet death from any. Let me not meet death from any of the living entities created by you. Let me not die within or outside any residence. Let me not die during the daytime or at night, on the ground or in the sky. Let me not die by any others beyond you, by any weapon, any human being or animal. Let me not die from any living or non-living entity. Let me not die by any demigod or demon, or snakes from the lower planets. Let me not have any rival. Give me sole lordship over all the living entities and presiding deities. Give me all the mystic powers attained by long austerities and yoga practice. So that's what we finished with yesterday. Now, today we're going to be reading about the nefarious activities of Hiranyakashipu after he received those boons, and then the demigods approach Lord Viṣṇu for protection. What number are we reading up to? 29. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's begin. Where am I? There. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe, chapter 4. This chapter fully describes how Hiranyakashipu obtained power from Lord Brahma and misused it by harassing all the living entities within this universe. By severe austerities, Hiranyakashipu satisfied Lord Brahma and obtained the benedictions he desired. After he received these benedictions, his body, which had been almost entirely consumed, was revived with full beauty and luster like gold. Nonetheless, he continued to be envious of Lord Viṣṇu, unable to forget Lord Viṣṇu's having killed his brother. Hiranyakashipu conquered everyone in the 10 directions and the 3 worlds, and brought all living entities, both demigods and asuras, under his control. Becoming the master of all places, including the residents of Indra, whom he had driven out, he began enjoying life in great luxury, and thus became mad. All the demigods but Lord Viṣṇu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva came under his control and began serving him. But despite all his material power, he was dissatisfied because he was always puffed up, proud of transgressing the Vedic regulations. All the Brahmins were dissatisfied with him, and they cursed him with determination. Eventually, all the living entities within the universe, represented by the demigods and sages, prayed to the Supreme Lord for relief from Hiranyakashipu's rule. Lord Vishnu informed the demigods that they and the other living entities would be saved from the fearful conditions created by Hiranyakashipu. Since Hiranyakashipu was the oppressor of all the demigods, the followers of the Vedas, the cows, the Brahmins, and the religious, saintly persons, and since he was envious of the Supreme Lord, he would naturally be killed very soon. Hiranyakashipu's last exploit would be to torment his own son Prahlad, who is a Mahabhagavat, an exalted Vaishnava. Then his life would end. When the demigods were thus reassured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone was satisfied, knowing that the miseries inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu would come to an end. Finally, Narad Muni describes the characteristics of Prahlad Maharaj, the son of Hiranyakashipu, and describes how his father envied even his own qualified son. And this way the chapter ends. Śrīnāraduvaca evam vrita shatadhritir hiranyakashiporata pradatat tapasa prito varangstasya sadurlabhan. Narad Muni continued, Lord Brahma was very much satisfied by Hiranyakashipu's austerities, which were difficult to perform. Therefore, when solicited for benedictions, he indeed granted them, although they were rarely to be achieved. Sri Brahma Vacha Tate me dulabha pungsam yan vrinishe varan mama tatapi vitaramyanga varanyadap dulabham. Lord Brahma said, O Hiranyakashipu, these benedictions for which you have asked are difficult to obtain for most men. Nonetheless, O my son, I shall grant you them, although they are generally not available. Purport. Material benedictions are not always exactly worthy of being called benedictions. If one possesses more and more, a benediction itself may become a curse. For just as achieving material opulence in this material world requires great strength and endeavor, maintaining it also requires great endeavor. Lord Brahma informed Hiranyakashipu that although he was ready to offer him whatever he had asked, the result of the benedictions would be very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to maintain. Nonetheless, since Brahma had promised, he wanted to grant all the benedictions asked. The word durlabhan indicates that one should not take benedictions one cannot enjoy peacefully. Tato jagama bhagavan amoghanugraho vibhu pujito suravaryena stuyamana prajeshwarai. Then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, and being praised by great sages and saintly persons. Evang labda varo daityo bibhradhe mamayam vapu bhagavata karo dvesham bhratur vadham anusmaran. The demon Hiranyakashipu, having thus been blessed by Lord Brahma and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother and therefore be envious of Lord Viṣṇu. Purport. A demoniac person, in spite of acquiring all the opulences possible to obtain in this universe, continues to be envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh wait, I think I'm going to go on this view now. Savejityadisha sarva lokangschatrin mahasura devasura manushendra gandharva garudoragan siddhacharana vidhadran Rishin Pitri Patin Manun Yaksha Raksha Pishacheshan Preta Bhuta Patinapi Sarva Sattva Patin Jitva Vasham Aniya Vishvajit Jahara Lokapalanam Stanani Sahate Jasa. Hiranyakashipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, that great demon conquered all the planets in the three worlds, upper, middle, and lower, including the planets of the human beings, the Gandharvas, the Garudas, interesting, the great serpents, the Siddhas, Charanas, and Vidyadharas, the great saints, Yamarajas, the Manus, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pishachas, and their masters, and the masters of the ghosts and Bhutas. He defeated the rulers of all other planets where there are living entities and brought them under his control. Conquering the abodes of all, he seized their power and influence. Oh, Prabhupada answers my question here. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Garuda in this verse indicates that there are planets of great birds like Garuda. Similarly, the word Uraga indicates that there are planets of enormous serpents. Such a description of the various planets of the universe may challenge modern scientists who think that all planets but this Earth are vacant. These scientists claim to have launched excursions to the moon, where they have found no living entities but only big craters full of dust and stone. Although in fact the moon is so brilliant that it acts like the sun in illuminating the entire universe. Of course, it is not possible to convince modern scientists of the Vedic information about the universe. Nonetheless, we are not very much impressed by the words of the scientists who say that all other planets are vacant and that only the Earth is full of living entities. Devo dhyana shriya jushtam adhyaste smatripistapam mahendra bhavanam shakshan nirmitam vishvakarmana Trailokya Lakshmayatanam Adhyuvasa Kilarthimat. Hiranyakashipu, who possessed all opulence, began residing in heaven with its famous Nandan garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in the most opulent palace of Indra, the king of heaven. The palace had been directly constructed by the demigod architect Vishvakarma and was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. Purport. From this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands upon thousands of times more opulent than the lower planetary system in which we live. Vishvakarma, the famous heavenly architect, known as the constructor of many wonderful buildings in the upper planets, where there are not only beautiful buildings, but also many opulent gardens and parks, which are described as Nanda Devodhyan, gardens quite fit to be enjoyed by the demigods. This description of the upper planetary system and its opulences is to be understood from authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. Telescopes and the other imperfect instruments of scientists are inadequate for evaluating the upper planetary system. Those instruments are needed because the vision of scientists is imperfect. Instruments themselves are also imperfect. Therefore, the upper planets cannot be praised by imperfect men using imperfect man-made instruments. Direct information received from the Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We therefore cannot accept the statement that there is no opulent residence on planets other than this Earth. Yatra vidruma sopana mahamarakata bhuva yatra spatika kudyani vaidurya stambhapanktaya yatra chitra vitanani parmaragasanani cha Payatena nibhashaya mukta dama parichada kujadvir nuparar devya shabdayantya itastata ratnastali shupashyanti sudadati sundaram mukham tasmin mahendra bhavane sorry tasmin mahendra bhavane mahabaho mahamana nirjitaloka ekarat reme bibandyangri yuga suradivi pratapiter urjita chanda shasana. The steps of King Indra's residence were made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The walls were of crystal, and the columns of Vaidurya stone. The wonderful canopies were beautifully decorated. The seats were bedecked with rubies, and the silk bedding, as white as foam, was decorated with pearls. The ladies of the palace, who were blessed with beautiful teeth and the most wonderfully beautiful faces, walked here and there in their palace, their ankle bells tinkling melodiously, and they saw their own beautiful reflection in the gems. The demigods, however, being very much oppressed, had to bow down and offer obeisances at the feet of Hiranyakashipu, who chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason. Thus Hiranyakashipu lived in the palace and severely ruled everyone. Purport. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful in the heavenly planets that all the demigods except Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Viṣṇu were forced to engage in his service. Indeed, they were afraid of being severely punished if they disobeyed him. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur has compared Hiranyakashipu to Maharaj Vain, who was also atheistic and scornful of the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. Yet Maharaj Vain was afraid of some of the great sages such as Bhrigu, whereas Hiranyakashipu ruled in such a way that everyone feared him but Lord Viṣṇu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Hiranyakashipu was so alert against being burnt to ashes by the anger of great sages like Bhrigu that by dint of austerity he surpassed their power and placed even them under his subordination. It appears that even in the higher planetary systems to which people are promoted by pious activities, disturbances are created by asuras like Hiranyakashipu. No one in the three worlds can live in peace and prosperity without disturbance. Tamangamatam madhunorudgandhina vivritatam raksham asheshadhishnapa upasatopayana panibirvina tribhistapo yoga baloja sampadam. O my dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong-smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, although he is abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Viṣṇu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. Purport. In the Skanda Purana, there's a description, Upayanam dadu sarve vina devam hiranyaka. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that everyone but the three principal demigods, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Viṣṇu, engaged in his service. Madhvacharya says, Aditya Vasavo Rudras Trividha hi Surayata. There are three kinds of demigods, the Adityas, the Vasus, and the Rudras, beneath whom are the other demigods, like the Maruts and Sadhyas. Marutaschaiva Vishvecha Sadhyaschaiva Chatargata. Therefore, all the demigods are called Tripishtapa, and the same word Tri applies to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Viṣṇu. Jagor Mahendrasanam Ojasa Stitam Vishvavasustum burur asmadadaya Gandharvase darishayostuvan muhur Vidyadarashchap sarashastapa sorry cha sarasashcha pandava. O Maharaj Yudhishthir, descendant of Pandu, by dint of his personal power, Hiranyakashipu, being situated on the throne of King Indra, controlled the inhabitants of the other planets. The two Gandharvas, Vishvavasu and Tumburu, I myself, and the Vidyadharas, Apsaras, and sages, all offered prayers to him again and again, just to glorify him. Wow, even Narad Muni. Purport. The asuras sometimes become so powerful that they can engage even Narad Muni and similar devotees in their service. This does not mean that Narad Muni was subordinate to Hiranyakashipu. Sometimes, however, it so happens in this material world that great personalities, even great devotees, can also be controlled by the asuras. Sa eva varnashrami kratubir bhuri dakshinai ejamano havir bhagan agrahit svena tejasa. Being worshipped by sacrifices offered with great gifts by those who strictly follow the principles of Varna and Ashram, Hiranyakashipu, instead of offering shares of the oblations to the demigods, accepted them himself. Akrishtapachatasyasit saptadvipavati mahi tata kama dukha gava nanascharya padam nava. As if in fear of Hiranyakashipu, the planet Earth, which consists of 7 islands, delivered food grains without being plowed. Thus it resembled cows, like the Surabhi of the spiritual world or the Kamduga of heaven. The earth yielded sufficient food grains, the cows supplied abundant milk, and outer space was beautifully decorated with wonderful phenomena. Ratnakarashcha ratno gangs tatpantnyascha hururmibi ksharasiddhukrita kshodra tadikshirāmritodaka. By the flowing of their waves, the various oceans of the universe, along with their tributaries, the rivers, which are compared to their wives, supplied various kinds of gems and jewels for Hiranyakashipu's use. These oceans were oceans of salt water, sugarcane juice, wine, clarified butter, milk, yogurt, and sweet water. Purport: the water of the seas and oceans of this planet, which we have experienced, are salty, but other planets within the universe contain oceans of sugarcane juice, liquor, ghee, milk, and sweet water. The rivers are figuratively described as wives of the oceans and seas because they glide down to the oceans and seas as tributaries, like the wives attached to their husbands. Modern scientists modern scientists attempt excursions to other planets, but they have no information of how many different types of oceans and seas there are within the universe. According to their experience, the moon is full of dust, but this does not explain how it gives us soothing rays from a distance of millions of miles. As far as we are concerned, we follow the authority of Vyasadeva and Shukadev Goswami, who have described the universal situation according to the Vedic literature. These authorities differ from the modern scientists, who conclude from their imperfect sensual experience that only this planet is inhabited by living entities, whereas the other planets are all vacant or full of dust. Shailadroni virakridam sarvatushu gunandruma Tadhara lokapalanam eva eka eva pritagunan. The valleys between the mountains became fields for pleasure for Hiranyakashipu, by whose influence all the trees and plants produced fruits and flowers profusely in all seasons. The qualities of pouring water, drying, and burning, which are all qualities of the three departmental heads of the universe, namely Indra, Vayu, and Agni, were all directed by Hiranyakashipu alone, without assistance from the demigods. Purport. It is said in the beginning of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vinimaya. This material world is conducted by fire, water, and earth, which combine and take shape. Here it is mentioned that the three modes of nature, Pratagunan, act under the direction of different demigods. For example, King Indra is in charge of pouring water. The demigod Vayu controls the air and dries up the water, whereas the demigod controlling fire burns everything. Hiranyakashipu, however, by dint of his austere performances of mystic yoga, became so powerful that he alone took shelter of everything, without assistance from the demigods. I'm going to stand up. I'm all of a sudden feeling tired again. 1 second. Let me just move my computer over here. Okay. Oh, wait. Saitam nirjita kaku evarar vishayan priya yato pajosham bhunjana natripyad ajitendriya. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. Purport. This is an example of asuric life. Atheists can advance materially and create an extremely comfortable situation for the senses. But because they are controlled by the senses, they cannot be satisfied. This is the effect of modern civilization. Materialists are very much advanced and enjoying money and women, yet dissatisfaction prevails within human society because human society cannot be happy and peaceful without Krishna consciousness. As far as material sense gratification is concerned, materialists may go on increasing their enjoyment as far as they can imagine. But because people in such a material condition are servants of their senses, they cannot be satisfied. Hiranyakashipu was a vivid example of this dissatisfied state of humanity. Evam aishvaryamattasya driptasya chastravartina kalo mahan vyatityaya brahmashapam upeyushaha. Hiranyakashipu thus passed a long time being very much proud of his opulences and transgressing the laws and regulations mentioned in the authoritative Shastras. He was therefore subjected to a curse by the 4 Kumaras, who were great Brahmins. Purport. There have been many instances in which demons, after achieving material opulences, have become extremely proud, so much so that they have transgressed the laws and regulations given in the authoritative Shastras. Hiranyakashipu acted in this way, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 16:23. Ya shastram vidimutsrija vartate kamakarata na sasiddham avapnoti na sukam na puram gatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. The word Shastra refers to that which controls our activities. We cannot violate or transgress the laws and regulative principles mentioned in the Shastras. Bhagavad Gita repeatedly confirms this. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karyakara Vyavastito Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Iharhasi. One should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. It's Bhagavad Gita 16:24. One should act according to the direction of the Shastra, but the material energy is so powerful that as soon as one becomes materially opulent, he begins to transgress the Shastric laws. As soon as one transgresses the laws of Shastra, he immediately enters upon the path of destruction. Tasyogra dandasamvegna sarve loka sampalaka anyatra labdha sharana sharanam yayurachutam. Everyone, including the rulers of the various planets, was extremely distressed because of the severe punishment inflicted upon them by Hiranyakaśipu. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any other shelter, they at last surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Purport. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantimrichati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is actually the best friend of everyone. In a condition of distress or misery, one wants to seek shelter of a well-wishing friend. The well-wishing friend of the perfect order is Lord Krishna. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the various planets, being unable to find any other shelter, were obliged to seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Friend. If from the very beginning we seek shelter of the Supreme Friend, there will be no cause of danger. It is said that if a dog is swimming in the water and no one wants to cross the ocean by catching hold of the dog's tail, and one wants to cross the ocean by catching hold of the dog's tail, certainly he is foolish. Similarly, if in distress one seeks shelter of a demigod, he is foolish, for his efforts will be fruitless. In all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there will be no danger under any circumstances. Tasyai namastu kashtaya yatratma haririshva yargatva na nivartante shanta sanyasino mala iti te samyatatmana samahita dhiyo mala upatastur rishikesham vinidra vayu bhojana. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that direction where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated, where those purified souls in the renounced order of life, the great saintly persons, go, and from which, having gone, they never return. Without sleep, fully controlling their minds, and living only on their breath, the predominating deities of the various planets began worshipping Hrishikesh with this meditation. Purport. The two words tasyai kashtayai are very significant. Everywhere, in every direction, in every heart, and in every atom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in his features as Brahman and Paramatma. Then what is the purpose of saying tasyai kashtayai in that direction where Hari is situated? During Hiranyakashipu's time, his influence was everywhere, but he could not force his influence into the places where the Supreme Personality of Godhead had his pastimes. For example, on this earth, there were such places as Vrindavan and Ayodhya, which are called Dhammas. In the Dham, there is no influence from Kali Yuga or any demon. If one takes shelter of such a dham, worship of the Lord becomes very easy, and resultant spiritual advancement quickly takes place. In fact, in India, one may still go to Vrindavan and similar places to achieve the results of spiritual activities quickly. Tesham avirabhurvani arupa meghanisvana sannadayanti kakubha sadhunam abhayankari. Then there appeared before them a transcendental sound vibration emanating from the personality not visible to material eyes. The voice was as grave as the sound of a cloud, and it was very encouraging, driving away all fear. Sound of a cloud? I guess it's. I guess it's referring to to thunder, rumbling thunder. All right, let's. Ma bhaishta vibudo shishta sarvesham bhadramastuva madarshanam hi bhutanam sarvashreyo papattaye gyatam etasya doratmyam daiteya pasadasya yat tasya shantim karishyami kalam tavat pratikshata. The voice of the Lord vibrated as follows: O best of learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune to you. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers, for these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. I know about the activities of Hiranyakaśipu and shall surely stop them very soon. Please wait patiently until that time. Purport. Sometimes people are very much eager to see God, and considering the word maddarshanam, seeing me, which is mentioned in this verse, one should note that in Bhagavad Gita the Lord says, Bhaktya mam abhijananti. In other words, the ability to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or to see him or to see him or talk with him depends on one's advancement in devotional service, which is called bhakti. In bhakti, there are 9 different activities: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Because all these devotional activities are absolute, there is no fundamental difference between worshipping the deity in the temple, seeing him, and chanting his glories. Indeed, all of these are ways of seeing him, for everything done in devotional service is a means or direct contact with the Lord. The vibration of the Lord's voice appeared in the presence of all the of all the devotees. And although the person vibrating the sound was unseen to them, they were meeting or seeing the Lord because they were offering prayers and because the vibration of the Lord was present. Contrary to the laws of the material world, there is no difference between seeing the Lord, offering prayers, and hearing the transcendental vibration. Pure devotees, therefore, are fully satisfied by glorifying the Lord. Such glorification is called kirtan. Performing kirtan and hearing the vibration of the sound Hare Krishna is actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. One must realize this position, and then one will be able to understand the absolute nature of the Lord's activities. I really like that. Performing kirtan and hearing the vibration of the sound of Hare Krishna is actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. Yada deveshu vedeshu goshu vipreshu sadhushu dharme maya cha vidvesha sava ashu vinashyati. When one is envious of the demigods, who represents the Supreme Personality of Godhead of the Vedas, which give all knowledge, of the cows, Brahmins, Vaishnavas, and religious principles, and ultimately of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. Nirvairaya prashantaya swasutaya mahatmane prahradaya yadadruhyed danishyepi varorjitam. When Hiranyakashipu teases the great devotee Prahlad, his own son, who is peaceful and sober and who has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakashipu immediately, despite the benedictions of Brahma. Purport. Of all sinful activities, an offense to a pure devotee or Vaishnava is the most severe. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is so disastrous that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has compared it to a mad elephant that enters a garden and causes great havoc by uprooting many plants and trees. If one is an offender at the lotus feet of a Brahmin or a Vaishnava, his offenses uproot all his auspicious activities. One should therefore One should therefore very carefully guard against committing Vaishnava parad, or offenses at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Here the Lord clearly says that although Hiranyakashipu had received benedictions from Lord Brahma, these benedictions would be null and void as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, his own son. A Vaishnav like Prahlad Maharaj is described herein as nirvaira, having no enemies. Elsewhere in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 3:25-21, it is said, Ajata Shatrava Shanta Sadhava Sadhubhushana. A devotee has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. A devotee does not create enmity with anyone, but if someone becomes his enemy, that person will be vanquished by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, despite whatever benedictions he may have received from other sources. Hiranyakashipu was certainly enjoying the fruitful results of his austerities. But here, the Lord says that as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, he would be ruined. One's longevity, opulence, beauty, education, and whatever else one may possess as a result of pious activities cannot protect one if one commits an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Despite whatever one possesses, if one offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, he will be vanquished. Shri Narad Uvacha Ittukta Lokaguruna Tam Pranamya Divokasa Nyavartana Gato Dvega Menire Chasuram Hatam. The great saint Narad Muni continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of everyone, thus reassured all the demigods living in the heavenly planets, they offered their respectful obeisances unto him and returned, confident that the demon Hiranyakashipu was now practically dead. Purport. The less intelligent men who are always busy worshipping the demigods should note that when the demigods are harassed by the demons, they approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for relief. Since the demigods resort to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why should the worshippers of the demigods not approach the Supreme Lord for whatever benefits they desire? Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 2:3-10 says, Akama sarvakama va moksha kama udharati tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether one desires everything or nothing, or whether he desires to merge into the existence of the Lord, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendental loving service. Whether one is a karmi, a jnani, or yogi, if one wants a particular benediction fulfilled, even if it be material, one should approach the Supreme Lord and pray to him, for then it will be fulfilled. There is no need to approach any demigod separately for the fulfillment of any desire. What verse am I reading up to? Oh, I'm done. Okay. 29. All right, so tomorrow we will read about the transcendental qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, and Yudhishthir inquires from Narad Muni, How did Hiranyakaśipu give so much trouble to the saintly son Prahlad? Parents are affectionate and chastise children only to instruct him, but not out of enmity. So that's what we'll read tomorrow. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Haribo Nitai Gaur Haribo. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nitya Vishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev Ki Jai, Nitya Vishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmat Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmat Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitya Pravishta Mahabhagavat Shila Gorkshadas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitya Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Nitya Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadas Raghunath Shar Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai, Nam Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय, सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय, श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय, श्री भक्ति देवी की जय, श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय, श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय, श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री what is it? Pashankushi Akarashi Titi ki jai, Akarashi Titi Palankari Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Bhakti Vigna Vinasankari Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai, Bhakta Pravar Shri Palar Maharaj ki jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Nandai Tulsi Deva Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Pyaiva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams, everybody. So this is where we are in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. See, we just have this much left. So yeah, we're getting through this quickly. All right. Dandavat pranams, Madhavi Didi. I don't know who's watching on, it just says Facebook user here, but I think this is who's ever watching on Gaudiya Kirtan Live group. Thank you, Keith. That's really nice. That's very good of you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Haribol. All right, Prajumna Prabhu, I hope you're feeling better. All right, see you all tomorrow. Hope you all have a very inspired, auspicious Ekadashi. Haribol.